Hello and thank you for watching. It's been a while since I've done a video, so I figured it's getting close to back to school. A lot of the work that I'm doing with my patients now is around back to school, so it's a good time to do a video. So I'm Kevin Green. If you've never watched one of my videos, thank you for watching. I'm a registered psychotherapist in Vaughan, Ontario, and primarily the work I do is with teenagers and young people. And the focus of a lot of what I'm doing today is helping people try to understand what is the importance of grades. So if you look at the whiteboard, and apologize for the bad handwriting, when are grades important and are grades important? So I'll start off by saying I'm a parent. So in addition to what I do as a job, I'm a parent of 2 kids. And yes, grades are important. Grades, depending on the age of the student, are an indicator of progress. They're an indicator of how well a person is doing. So it is important to pay attention to what the numbers actually are. The question is, how important is the number itself versus the work that's going into getting that number? And if you think about, I'm recording this in August of 2021, the school system for the past year and a half or so has been all over the place. Teachers have done their best. I think for the most part they've done a great job of trying to educate students. But because of COVID, we've had a situation where the education that students are getting probably isn't what has been best for them. And a large part of that is because of online learning. I can do a whole other video, and I probably will, about the impact of sitting at home, staring at a computer screen and trying to learn that way, and different learning styles, compared to actually doing it in the classroom. Both from the teacher's perspective, trying to teach that, or the student's perspective. But that's a whole other topic. The point is that when you think about the marks that students have been getting over the past year and a half, they've probably been impacted by the system. So just as a starting point, I would argue that focusing just on the marks probably is adding a lot of anxiety to yourself. Again, you're watching this as a student, you can be watching this as a parent, and maybe give yourself permission, or give your student permission, to maybe not be getting the results that they're used to or they expect. And it could be because they've done nothing wrong. They've been doing everything to the best of their ability. It's that the way the system's been working just hasn't been the best that it can be for your student, for your child. And if that's the case, hopefully things will change as time goes on. But give yourself permission maybe not to have the number you want, and that's okay, because numbers aren't always important. This might be hard for a lot of parents to hear, and if you're a student who's used to getting really high marks, this might be hard for you to hear as well. Here's my perspective. If you look at junior kindergarten to grade 8, I am not aware of any situation, at least in Ontario, I'm in York region, where a student in these grades was not allowed to go on to the next grade because of their mark. I'll say that again. I could be wrong. It's possible that of the thousands of students, there are some who were held back. I am not aware of any student who, because of their grade, was not able to progress from one grade to the other in JK to grade 8. So what does that mean? If your student is getting a 99, or your student, or your child, or you, if you're the child watching this, the student watching this, get a 9, you are likely going on to the next grade. This doesn't mean that you want to try for a 9, and I'm not suggesting that at all. What I am suggesting is that if your marks aren't what you want them to be, the impact on you in the future, based just on that number, is probably very, very low. If you're somebody who decides they want to get into the trades, you're somebody who wants to go to college, you're somebody that wants to go to university, the number that you get in JK to grade 8 likely will have zero direct impact on what your future direction will be. If you can accept that, then give yourself permission, if the number you're getting isn't what you expect, or that your child is getting isn't what you expect them to be getting, that the long-term impact of that is probably close to zero. That is really important, because if you can understand that and appreciate that, then it can make the stress of dealing with marks that you're not happy with be somewhat easier to deal with. Let's talk now about high school. Grades 9 and 10. Um, the difference between high school and pre-high school, so JK to grade 8, is that in high school, and again I'm speaking for the Ontario system, if you're doing grade 9 literacy, you can't get to grade 10 literacy without your grade 9 credit. So now the numbers become important, but not as much as people think. Again, check what I'm going to say now. You may want to check with your teacher or with the Board of Education just to make sure I'm not completely wrong. But I think I'll be pretty accurate. As long as you get a 50 or a 51, you are going to pass your grade 9 or grade 10 course. I don't know the impact that might have on the streaming and all that stuff versus the different levels, but you will go to the next grade level if you get a 50 or a 51. And I'm pretty sure this applies actually for grade 9 to grade 12. So at least for grade 9 and 10, which is I'll focus on right now again, for you to pass and get to the next grade, you have to pass. So that's a 50-51. What that means is getting a 50 versus getting a 60 or a 70 or an 80 may not make a difference for you. It doesn't mean your goal is to get the 50. And if you can do a lot better, that you aim lower. But if for whatever the reason your results aren't what you expect them to be, getting the 50-51 gets you to the next grade. If the reason why you didn't do well was maybe you didn't study enough. There are people now, because of online learning, it's been very hard to have good study habits. That's a big part of what I work on with people is study habits and how that can impact mental health. So if your mark hasn't been good, it may not have any impact on you in your future. It may not have any impact on your student, your child, if you're a parent or a teacher watching this, because they're going to get to the next grade. And now they have a chance to start over. So that's grade 9 and grade 10. Grade 11 and grade 12 is different. Grade 11 and grade 12, depending on what their plans are for post-secondary, these marks can be important because they get sent off to college or university, potentially, depending on when you're applying, to be considered for admission. So at this point, it is very different. But think about that. JK to the end of grade 10 is 12 years, if your kid started in JK. So 2 years of kindergarten, another 8 years, 2 more years of the first 2 years of high school, where the marks you get, the number, not the knowledge, but the number, does not impact what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I'll say that again. The marks you get, the number, from JK, so this is 12 years worth of life, JK to the end of grade 10, likely will have, and I would argue, almost a 0% impact on what you're going to do for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean that if you don't know the content and you don't have the knowledge, that you're not going to be able to, that won't impact you, because that will. But the number itself, the grade, is likely going to have close to a 0 impact on what you're going to be doing as an adult, or what your kid is going to be doing as an adult. If that's the case, then what does that mean in terms of anxiety, in terms of stress levels, if you expect your kid to get, say, an 85 and they get a 73? What does it mean if you're trying to get in the 90s and you only get the 80s? What does that mean if you're trying to get 80s and you get a 54? It's going to hurt, right? That can hurt from an ego point of view. It could be a sign that you're not learning what you need to learn. But the number itself is not an indicator of what you're going to do in your future. And I really, really believe this. I know personally, professionally, many stories of people who, even to the end of grade 12, the numbers they were getting were not good. And they are phenomenally successful people as adults. Some have gone on to academic pursuits that anywhere through here you would have said, not going to happen. There's other people who have found that the academic direction wasn't for them, and they've been phenomenally successful. Again, my key message here, when are grades important? And are grades important? Grades are important, the number itself. Definitely grades 11 and 12, 100%. But up until then, It depends. Now let's talk also about what numbers do you need to get. So I haven't done my undergrad in a very long time. I graduated high school, I believe, in around 1990-ish, and things have changed. The bar to get into university, for example, is higher now than it used to be. I'm going to make up a number. Let's say to get into a program, you need an 85 or you need a 92. Whatever the number happens to be is what it is. What that might mean is once you've gotten that number and you know that you have it, that you can start to relax a bit. Relaxing doesn't mean don't try and don't keep doing your work. But if you need an 85 and you know you're getting an 89, and getting more than that won't get you anything, so it's not going to get you a scholarship, you're realistically not going to learn any more than you would have learned anyways, then maybe that gives you a chance to relax and enjoy other parts of life, not just focus just on the grade that you're going to get. So why did I talk about this today? There is a ton of pressure on students for grades. A lot of it is self-imposed. People have high standards. A lot of it is imposed by parents. A lot of it is imposed by post-secondary. What do I want to do when I grow up? What do we want as parents our kids to be doing when they're older? We want them to be successful. And focusing just on numbers at certain ages is actually counterproductive. What that leads to is a lot of anxiety. And what happens is when a person has anxiety, if their goal is to get to here, right? So I'm going to put a number here. I'm going to put a 90. If your goal is to get to a 90%, and you're in an environment where that's not going to happen, and you're at an age where it may actually not matter, right? And what do I mean by not going to happen? Let's say, you're a student who's impacted by COVID. Whether it's online learning, maybe family members were sick, whatever the reason, doesn't matter. If you've been impacted by COVID and that meant you couldn't do the work you're normally capable of, you may not be able to get a 90. And if you're in these ages, realistically, a 90 versus a 60 is all the same. There may be exceptions, I'm sure there are, but for the majority of people, this number itself might turn into stress. So here's what you do. Number one, focus on how you're doing your work. Are you studying? Are you doing your homework? Typical things that people need to do as a student, even when there's no COVID, right? It's the stuff that people need to do. If you find that you need help with something, get the help. If you find that your child, if you're the parent, if you're the student, if you find that you need support, if you're finding something difficult around the way school is being done, whether in person, whether online, if it's a mask that you don't like to wear, whatever the reason, make sure the teacher understands what's going on. And give yourself permission not to stress over, I'm going to say it, I've said this probably about 100 times already, not to stress over the number itself. One of the things about anxiety, right? Anxiety, if when I define it for people in my office, is thoughts and fears and emotions about something in the future. There are things in the future that we know are going to happen, and there's things in the future that we don't know about. There's a lot of uncertainty. So I try to help people, because we're all going to have anxiety, it's a natural thing. Try to have the anxiety based on things you actually understand and in the proper context. So to stress over a number, when the number itself isn't really worth stressing over, makes anxiety worse. And if a person is capable of getting to here, what can happen is the anxiety turns into a big barrier to actually getting to where they want to go. So to summarize this all into just a really, really concise type of statement, and I'm not known for being concise, so I apologize, don't stress over grades. And if you're going to stress over grades, understand what you're stressing over. If you're in grades 11 to 12, if you're a university or college student, and you need certain grades to stay in your program, 100% you need to know what those numbers are, and you need to get them. And if you're not going to get them, there could be consequences, and there also could be supports that you're entitled to that you need to ask for, and I'm happy to have a discussion about how that can work. If you're grade 11 and 12, based on the programs and that you want to get into, and if there's scholarships or funding or any of that type of stuff, you need to understand the number that you need to get to. And once you've gotten to it, and maybe even a little bit more just for a bit of padding and comfort, then give yourself permission to do other things in your life and not just focus on getting a higher number, because you've already gotten to where you need to go. And when you're in these other years, your grade is an indicator potentially of how well you're doing, and a high grade could show you're doing really well, and a low grade could show that you're not. It also isn't a sentence for you. Whether a good sentence, hey, you're getting 90s, therefore you're set for life, or you're getting 40s, 50s, whatever, and you're not. The number itself may not mean that much to you over your lifetime. So you may disagree with a lot of what I've said, and that's fine. I'm basing this on my experience working with students of all ages, and the impact that focusing on grades has had on people, and that the focus on grades is actually impacting the ability to get those grades. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. My number is 416-613-1259, and you can email me at kevin@hhcw.ca. Subscribe to my channel here. I'm going to try to put more stuff on as time goes on, and I hope that this was helpful. I'm really passionate about this. There is so much confusion, there's so much uncertainty because of COVID, and especially around the school system, that focusing too much on numbers is actually preventing people from getting to those numbers, and it's causing a lot of other problems that hopefully can be minimized and avoided going forward. So again, thank you for watching this today, and have a good day.